Okay, I'm here with my first checklist for buying property, and they're important, all of them. Number one is floodplain, the elevation of the river and your property being close together might easily put you in a floodplain. You got to be careful of that. Even if it's a little bit far away, if the elevation of the property is the same as sea level, you're a very good chance of it being in a floodplain. You have to look into it. All right, the next one is wetlands. Wetlands is not the same as floodplains. They're both two different things. And I will show you how to use the wetlands mapper to tell you if that property is wetlands at the end of the video, because there's other things I want you to understand before we talk about it. Okay, and then when it comes to wetlands, you got your water, you got your vegetation, you got your bath ponds, and like vegetation, you could tell, like moss and ferns will tell the building inspector or the code enforcement officer whether he needs to get the state involved or not. And if he recognizes everything in that, basically it's when it comes to building in wetlands, sometimes you can't, depending on the impact of what you're going to do to the property, how you're going to affect it. Sometimes they let you move stuff. So it's you got to talk to the people of where you're at, and hope the guy likes you, where he works with you. Deeds are really big with restrictions. It's like I looked at a property the other day, and because all the blueberry fields, whoever owned the property before, which was probably part of the beginning, that they're not allowed to spray because of the blueberry fields. You can't spray nothing. You can't treat your lawn or anything. That's one of the things. And then another one as I looked at is you need to maintain 100 foot of undisturbed forest from the road to the building site, with no more than 20 feet for access to the driveway, which it seems like to me they kind of put that deed there so that way you can't see into people's buildings and structures from the street. So anyway, that's deed restrictions. Then you got your ordinances. Ordinances are like, say, like Hartford, Maine has a minimum of 3 acres to be able to build on it. So just because it says 3 acres down at the town hall doesn't mean you get in 3 acres. They always say more. Unless it's been surveyed, you don't know for sure. So sometimes you can get on the property map and they got a scale of how many feet is in an inch, and then you can measure the borders of the lot. If it's easy to map, you could kind of get an idea yourself. But anyway, getting the lot number and the parcel number and the map number that it's on is very important. You should have that somewhere along the line before you start getting serious. So that's ordinances. Another ordinances, we're going to get into this probably again, but up in Lake Leeds, Maine, the federal high shoreline setback for wetlands is 75 feet. But in Leeds, the town ordinance is 250 feet. So you got to read the ordinances. Whenever you go into a town and you're serious about a piece of property, read the ordinances. They're all different, and a lot of them they won't give in on. So that's why I don't put none of these in. This is not in any particular order because they all overlap. Driveway. If you buy a piece of property and it's on a curve, and the speed limit, say, on the road that you're buying it on is 45 miles an hour, you have to be able to see both ways clearly, 450 feet. So if the neighbor has a tree in his front yard, if you can't pay him to cut it down, you can't get a driveway permit. If you can't get a driveway permit, you won't get a house permit. So that's something seriously to consider. Driveway permit. Can you see both ways based on the speed limit? Zoning. Zoning is a big one too. Zoning is like sometimes property isn't zoned at all. They'll say rural, and you'll say, great, I could do anything I want. But just remember, your neighbor can too. That's number one. And then you don't want to buy a property that's in a heavy industrial area that's zoned heavy industrial. and think you're going to use it for recreational use because you won't get a permit to put a little cabin or house on it. So it's like you got to follow the zoning of the property. Soil, North Carolina, there's a lot of clay in the soil. That's why all our red bricks come from North Carolina. They do a perk test. Sometimes if you have water and sewer at the street, you can get a variance, or sometimes they won't even require it, but you have to get a perk test if you're planning to put a septic system in, or you can't if it doesn't soak up so much water in so many minutes. And then soil test, it's all about whether the septic system can soak into the ground instead of down the back lawn and into the neighbor's yard or into the lake that you live near. Species. This is big. In West Virginia, there's a 7-mile stretch where a lizard lives, where they exist nowhere else in the world, and they don't know why they survive there, even to this day. And then down in Florida, there's a lot of species regulations where you have to build under certain conditions with the animals that walk on that property. You got to really look into species. There's a lot to know about that as well. I don't know everything, but so I'm not going to touch on it too much because I don't want to mislead anybody. Neighbors, this is another one. You know, the guy's 45 years old, and his kids are moved out 20 years ago, and all their toys are still in the front yard, all busted up, and all kinds of other junk he bought in his life that he never throws away. Junk cars or whatever. Can you live with that? Setbacks. Setbacks is really big if you're buying a real small lot, because it's like you can't put a well in over here. You got so many feet you can't build from the road or your neighbor's property. Setbacks with the ordinances. There's a lot of stuff to do with setbacks. You got to be careful when you buy real small. Ledge. This is big. You could walk into the property and you can tell by the trees how much ledge you have in the ground. Say, if the trees fork a lot compared to usual, that means there's a lot of ledge under the dirt. If there's stone walls, that's a telltale sign. The real estate's, oh, look at the beautiful stone walls, but you got to buy a rock hammer to bust through that ledge that's underneath that dirt, if you can, because then the soil tests won't come back positive where you can put the septic system in. So ledge is real important. Environment. If you have allergies and your neighbor has a lot of oak trees, that's not good. If you have arthritis, you might want to move to Arizona because the dry environment out there is easier on the arthritis. This is one thing that's real important, your right of way. It's real important to have a deeded right of way for you to access your property if you're not off the road. And then you got to make sure there's no deeded right of ways through the property for other people to get to. You could usually go downtown and get a map of the property of the area. You can see if there's landlocked properties behind your house where people don't have access to the road. And even if they do, it's still important to check into it, because they could have broke the property up in different ways over the years, where the right of way is still deeded onto their property, but that's not on your deed. And they can all of a sudden sell half their property, and that's probably why they deeded it, so they can split the property with the kids later. And now you got a right of way going right through where you were going to build a house. You got to be really careful about right of ways going through your property. Off grid. It may not bother you. Today's technology with solar, it's easy to live off grid. The cost of a solar system is for some people a lot cheaper than running 1,500 feet of power lines to your house. And then after you run the solar system, you won't have an electric bill except for the maintenance of the system, which seems to be a lot cheaper to me. Industry in the area. This is a pretty big one. Some kind of quarry down the street with all kinds of trucks going by, a firehouse, sirens, and can you stand any of this? Dairy farms, they stink. Paper mills, they stink. Auto salvage yards look like hell sometimes. Plus they create contamination if they're old ones. Related railroad tracks, and then this is a big one, a gas station across the street that used to have tanks in the ground that are leaking when they were in business, and they usually closed because of that problem. if you put a well in your property and you keep using the well over the years, that gas is slowly going to come up through your kitchen sink. So you want to be careful of that. Plus, there's benzene and lead and everything else that can give you cancer when you're taking showers. So you really want to worry about your water supply. Road maintenance. In Maine, they call camp roads is what they call them. These roads are not maintained, plowed in the winter. And you might have to pick up the financial responsibility for doing it. So that's something you might want to consider and look into as well. I went to look at one property. The guy says, "Oh, this guy lives up here all year round." All year round. I went up there in the winter because I was seriously considering it, and there wasn't a tire tracking since the fall. But anyway, there was like 10 inches of snow on the ground. So anyway, road maintenance is very important. Always get a lawyer. Always get a title company or whatever to close on your property. Don't do it on a handshake. I went to one place where looked at a property. I went to buy it, and a guy that owned it, was his father. He left it to him. His father died, and he bought the property and never turned in the transaction and registered it in the county with the county that the property was transferred. He just threw the paperwork in his drawer. So now there's no record of him ever buying the property. And he's the only evidence is that he's been paying taxes on it for 25 years. But anyway, that's something. Always get a title company. Minimum acreage. The ordinance in the town says minimum 3 acres to build, like Hartford, and your town map in lot says you have 3 acres. That doesn't mean you do. If you got a small parcel like that and there's not room to play, you should get it surveyed. That's my thing, because then you have to go through the ordinances. Okay, fields. The fields next door means a lot. Whether you can put your where you can put your well. You got to put your well 100 feet away from it, because of the pesticides they used in the past. Some of them are like highly toxic. So that's something you want to consider. If you're buying a small parcel, can you put the well and the septic on it? Contamination, old underground storage tanks. A factory that was in the on the property years ago, where they tore the building down. Before they did, they had a big hole in the ground they dug, and they used to throw all this stuff out the window into the hole. If that went on for 15 years, you can imagine the financial responsibility it's going to take to clean that up. And the average person can't afford it, believe me. Set foot on the property before the closing. Those Google Earths don't trust just Google Earth in them, because those maps are out of date, sometimes 2-3 years. And those trees that were on the property back then are not there now. So always go by the property. Plus you want to check it for wetlands, vegetation, and everything else. Terrain is a big one. You may be buying 30 acres, but by the time you go look at it, it's nothing but a side of a mountain that you can't build on a square inch of it. So it's real important to do terrain checks. You usually do that on a topo map. I'll show it to you at the end of the video. Mineral rights. Coal mining country, Virginia's, Kentucky, all kinds of mineral rights on the properties there. In the Midwest, they have copper mines all over the place where mineral rights. You got to be real careful about mineral rights. At least check into it. Cell phone service and internet. If you want buying this property thinking you're going to work from home, they may not have a cell phone tower around for a long way. If I tried to find out the reason for selling, if the property changed hands 3 or 4 times in the last few years, it's probably because there's something on this list that they're coming up on. I mean, I would be like, what do you call that? High alert for something's in the wind. Minimum acres. If you're buying the property for hunting, some states, counties, or whatever, you have to have a minimum of 10 acres to hunt on that parcel. So that's something you want to do. You definitely want to check into. So that's why I didn't put any of these in order, because they all overlap with each other, as you can see. So you really got to be patient, take your time, check out the ordinances, get yourself a map, check everything. On those maps, like, they got a scale where you can scale to see if you got close to acreage. buying surveyed property is nice because it takes the worry out of a lot of things. So anyway, so let me show you this wetlands map, or I'm going to try to show you. I did this before and it didn't come out on the map, so I'm going to try it again. Okay, this is the wetlands map. Make sure it says .gov, so you got the right one. And they call it National Wetlands Inventory. What you do is you click here. This is not going to be right. I have to show you this for a reason. Hopefully it'll come up on this. You'll see in the beginning when I do this, there's going to be a airplane in it. So watch this. Old County Road, Etna, Maine. So you'll see when it comes up. See the airplane? The reason why I wanted to show you that is that's what causes these things not to be accurate. It looks like an airplane parked in the middle of the road. That's an airplane coming in to the airport and it's flying really low for the to land in the airport. And it's see that now I'm going to show you why this is important. This is let me see where'd it go. Okay, I don't know where. I've got to find the property. Well, I want to show you this property. It's real important to see. You know what? Here's a base map. It's always I better luck doing this. Okay, Old County Road. I got to find Route 143. Okay, that's it. Here's where I want to show you. This right here. See this right here? When I'm going to go satellite. And where did that go? It's somewhere in here. Okay, here. Do you see how this is like way over here? It should be on top of that creek right there. And that's because the airplane threw it off. So you can't go by these exactly, but what's nice about it is you see how the map has all this different where it shows the vegetation. This is all federal regulation now. There's no like to let me off the hook. They're going to enforce it. So this is you could go to Legend. It tells you what all the different colors are for. You see it? But anyway, see the lot I was looking at is that lot is right there. So what you can do is you could go to measure. I'm just showing you this real quick. You go to miles. You click on miles. You could change it to feet. Then you could go from 143 to the map. You measure it on the map. You got a scale. I have this little scale I use. A little scale like this, where you can measure the map you got from town. You can also get the maps online too and download them in PDF file most of the time. But I use a scale because I got the scale on the map where it says 1 inch. It's how many feet. You'll see it when you get it. But anyway, when it shows you on the town map, you can it says you can add it up and say 3,000 feet. What you can do is you can go measure that to wherever the property is. See how it tells you 2,500 feet? Now you know you're in the right area, the right lot. So see what it says that feet? Okay, so you got that idea. Or you could just play with it. It's fun to play with. Then this one here. This is another one. It's not always doesn't show the elevation right away. You got to move it in sometimes, and it only shows it turns. All right, see how I moved it in, and the number just disappeared. Now watch when I bring it back out. See those feet? See, there's 1 foot difference between here and there. So, if you move here, like you get to the elevation, right here you find the elevation of this vegetation area, and it's at 350 feet. Chances are really good if this is 350 feet, it's all going to be vegetation that you can't use. So That's that one. Now the topo is the elevation. Like if you're like trying to buy land out of state, you can see right away whether it's a mountainside or not. So that'll help you see how all these are overlapping. That's why no matter how you do this list, there's no certain order. So anyway, this is a really good checklist. If you have any other things that I left off it, you can help us out by, of course, the comments. And I probably saved you a lot of money with one of these. At least I hope I did. And if I saved you money, this video goes viral pretty good, I'll make a little bit, and you can help me out make a little money because I saved you so much. It's just like one hand washes the other. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and this is a good checklist to have. So you should subscribe so you could readily find it when you finally find your piece of property. And when you get to do it, building a house is not work if you're doing it for yourself. It's fun. So building a little cabin and having a piece of property, they're not making no more of it. Good luck with your venture. And I don't think I forgot anything that I could think of. If I didn't tell you, oh, I did forget. There's different things about California with the California because of the earthquake. And then when you get to your coastal regions, you got flooding and high tides, and so there's a lot of stuff to know. So if you're buying in certain areas, there's still a lot to know. So don't assume this is it. This is like the beginning. When somebody says 6 tips for buying land, it's just somebody making a video to make money. It's there's way more than this, I'm sure, that I don't know about. But anyway, good luck, and thanks for watching my video.